What is up? This is John Nelson, and you are listening to the Starting Block Podcast. If you're looking for a show that gives you complete athletic development and cuts through all of the nonsense and social media garbage that's out there, then we are the show for you. We want to welcome you today to episode 3. Episode 3. It's already the third one, so we're rolling. We appreciate having you guys on. We've got a pretty sweet show planned for you today. So like I said, man, this show is about complete athletic development. This is about giving you, the coach, the athlete, or the parent, the tools to win and to win at the highest level. So myself, our producer, my wife, Mandy, and our co-host, Chris, we have 60 plus years of combined experience in this field. And so each week we're committed to bringing you guys the best information and real hands-on experience, in the trenches experience of how to get better as an athlete, both from strength, speed to the rehab to all of the elements of athletic development. And that's what we're all about here. So we appreciate you tuning in and listening. I want to say welcome to the show, Chris and Mandy. And Mandy, why don't you tell us what today's all about?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, welcome back to everybody that is listening. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that they can continue to send questions to both Chris and John at info@elitelevelperformance.com. We've gotten some really good questions, so I'm excited to put together some of our future podcasts with some of those. Some of our listeners are getting really creative. I think they're going to challenge you guys, so that should be fun.
We'll see about that.
So today's episode, it's a good one. This one's been in the works for a little while. John and Chris are going to go over the 2 reasons you are not getting faster and what you can do about it. So reason 1, we're going to go over a concept called pretensing a muscle, and we're going to let Chris talk about that. And the second would be a possibility of a lack of absolute strength. So I think John is going to dive into that one for us. And then we'll try to wrap it up with you with some practical application that can help you apply a lot of these concepts that they're going to go over and hopefully make you faster. Let's get started. Chris, we can start with you. So that first reason why somebody might not be getting faster, where we talked about the pretensing. First of all, maybe explain what that is. And then
the speed guru, Chris Scarborough, the speed guru, right. Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, yeah, pretensing, it's really a concept of isometric muscle contraction. So it's still strength, right? It's still strength. It's just before your foot ever hits the ground, for example, the muscles around the ankle are already tightened up, right? So you have, some of the muscles in the gastroc, the soleus, you got all the anterior tibialis and, the tibialis posterior. I mean, you can look up an anatomy book, okay? You got all these muscles that are tensing up before the foot strikes the ground. When it does that, the ankle moves very little. Okay, it does move some, but it moves very little. And the energy, instead of going through the muscle, which may be very strong, but it's very slow, instead the energy goes through the tendon, which is very fast and very springy. So one of the things you'll notice is the fastest people are not necessarily the strongest in the weight room. Now, chances are they're pretty strong, but they don't necessarily have to be able to squat 600 pounds to run fast. They need to have good strength prior to their foot hitting the ground, at least in the ankle. So does that make sense?
Okay, so the pretensing concept, you're applying it more to like the drop-in phase, or what I would call the drop-in phase, or right before ground contact or coming into ground contact. Is that what you're referring to with it?
Yes, correct. And of course, not the ankle is the primary area that's really what we would call stiff. Okay, that's the part where you want most of that spring to come from. The knee, you could say stays relatively stiff, but not really. I mean, everything moves. Okay, the joints move, the hip, the knee, the ankle, they all move. But especially at the ankle joint, yes, the muscles are tensed up, they're tightened up, they're locking that joint in tight and right before that foot hits the ground, because again, you want to create a spring effect. You don't want to create a muscle effect.
And so, yeah, go ahead, Mandy. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, how would you assess somebody, or if you were working with somebody, to know whether or not they were doing that accurately or correctly or in the proper time?
Well, I mean, if you've ever watched anybody jump rope, you can usually see it pretty quickly. I mean, or they don't even have to have a rope, right? They wouldn't even have to have a rope. But if you see them, just kind of, every time that they get up off the ground, their toes are pointing down toward the floor. Their toes are way below their ankle and all that sort of thing. Yeah, chances are they're probably They're over pushing. They're overusing the strength. They're trying to rely on the strength of the ankle instead of the speed or the elasticity of the ankle. So that's probably the most common assessment tool. Now, keep in mind, when you run, it's not on, you don't run on both feet at the same time. You don't jump down the track or jump down the football field or jump down the base path. You're going to be doing one ankle at a time, but that's a beginning level assessment. If someone can't double ankle balance, they're certainly not going to do it on one leg. So, that's a beginner assessment.
So, if we have a young athlete listening to this, or a dad or coach, who's listening to this and it's like, okay, I've got this athlete who, squats or deadlifts or whatever. I mean, they're strong, they're kind of quick, there's something there, but they're stalled out. Like, they can't seem to make that next step, whether that's, I know you work with a lot of track guys. I mean, we work with a lot of baseball guys. So really the 60s kind of the big one with us. And, I mean, you get like, okay, I got to break a sub 7 or, got to run, 6.8 or whatever, but they do the speed work. They do, they do the strength training, but there's just something not there. So like tell the coaches and the parents a little bit, like how that happens. So, if they start relying on the muscular component more so than the elastic component, how do they get to that point? And I guess you brought up the jump rope thing already, but I guess what are other elements that they can look at to say, okay, hey, this is really one of the weaknesses that I have for sure, and I have to develop this. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean,
at all?
Yeah, I think to answer your question, the best thing to do is see if they can coordinate. So, yes, I mean, when I say you don't want to, you want to rely on the springiness over the strength. That's again, we're kind of referring to the ankle. So, even if someone, let's say they're good at doing that jump rope drill or what I call a double foot ankle pop, they might do that and look fantastic at doing it, but they may not coordinate their hip. When their hip is flexing, they may not be able to hold that foot in a neutral position, for example. So
dig into the coordination side of it then, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, you might see someone, they look great on a jump rope or great on a double foot ankle pop, and then you watch them try to take off out of, say, starting blocks, the podcast, right? Or, say...
nice. Good plug, man.
Nice little punch.
Yay.
Or, if they're getting ready to steal a base or whatever the case may be, I mean, one of the first things you see is that them over pushing off that back ankle. Very, very common problem, in which case you just have to learn.
Over pushing as far as what? Like, what do you mean? Like, are they going into like too much plantar flexion, like pointing the toe down? Like, what are you seeing?
Yes. You see a lot of over plantar flexion. You see this.
Okay. So if you're watching, you're literally, guys who are watching, like you're pushing more like this. Is that right, Chris? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay. So almost like you're doing a calf raise almost, but anyway.
Right, exactly. What? Exactly. Like more of a horizontal calf raise. Exactly. And you really don't want
to. Yeah, there you go.
Even the start, whether it be out of blocks or whether it be a base stealing position or whether it be, football trying to, run a 40, run a 60, whatever. You still don't want to over push. That leaves that leg. If you over push off one leg, that leg is behind your body too long. Okay, it's behind their body too long, and it has to play catch up the whole way. So in order to get to where you run your fastest, you have to get the legs in front of your body so they can then drive down. If they spend too long behind you, that's where a lot of people lose speed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so how does the ankle mobility, component play into this? Because you hear a lot about shin angles, right? Especially at the start. And so how does that play into this role of getting away from the muscular, pushing off and staying a little bit more into that, pretensing, that elastic component? Like how does ankle range of motion play a role in that?
Well, I mean, of course, when I say ankle stiffness, that does not mean for a second that you don't want to have good ankle mobility. You do. But when
Right. I know that, but I don't. I want to make sure our audience knows that. I think probably when some of them are like ankle stiffness, I thought you said, "Hey, my ankles suck and they need to get better." Like,
right. Yeah, you want to have good ankle mobility. Okay, so I want to be very careful. That's a very good question. You want to be able to hold the ankle stiff on command. So in other words, my foot strikes the ground. I don't want it to be moving unless I'm trying to adapt. Like my foot hits a rock or something like that. Yeah, I want to be able to roll with it a little bit. But I don't. If I'm just running down the field, I don't want that ankle to just give because it's not strong enough. Okay, again, we are still talking strength. The muscles around the ankle have to be strong to hold still, because the forces of running are going to want that ankle to move. They're going to want that. They're going to try to make that ankle move. If the stiffer you can hold it, and the more you can use the elasticity of those tendons, the quicker you're going to run, the more springy you're going to be. So yes, you want to have good ankle mobility. You want to be able to move it, but when it's striking the ground, you don't want it to be moving too much. Then you're going to over muscle it. Mm-hmm. You're going to over muscle the movement of running.
What is too much?
Correct. Yep.
What is too much?
Say again.
What is too much? Like you said, you don't want the ankle moving too much. So what is too much?
Well, I'm not going to sit there and put any kind of measuring device on it. But if you see someone, their foot strikes the ground, their heel begins to drop noticeably, like their shin is forward and their heel is still dropping down toward the ground, then number one, the chances are they're going to get an Achilles injury, which is something I know a lot about. And then secondly, they're probably going to be slow because, again, it takes time for that heel to drop down toward the ground and then come back up. And once again, the more you see that, the more slack you see in a joint in the case of running, the more likely that person is muscling the movement and not springing out of the movement.
Okay. So, like, we're talking about the mobility side of it as well, and how much is too much. Like, just the 5-inch ankle test. Like, I personally have always used that just as a general gauge of what, a client or an athlete's, ankle mobility looks like. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Does that play a role in this at all?
Well, describe the 5-inch ankle test to me. I'm not.
So the 5-inch ankle test is basically just, you're in you're kneeling, half kneeling position, and you line your toes up to the 5-inch mark. So like you put a yardstick or ruler or whatever up against the wall, you kneel down, you put your toes up to the 5-inch mark, and then you basically just try to get your knee to the wall without your heel coming off the ground. And then, and also without any other compensation. So, any other like rotation of the hip. And so can you get the knee to the wall? And I've always used that as kind of just a good gauge of ankle mobility. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, how that plays a role into this whole ankle stiffness and everything. And if you don't like that test, what do you do with an athlete's ankles?
Well, I mean, keep in mind, there's standards for range of motion everywhere. You can find them in almost any therapy reference book.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Goniometer, which measures joint angles, and just see if they get somewhere close on the various motions. Can they invert, evert? Okay, these are all just ankle ranges of motion. Can they dorsiflex, plantar flex, do all those types of things? You could do what you're talking about, John. Those are all fine. Just keep in mind, you're not going to be, when you're trying to run fast. Now, keep in mind, our goal is, and the question is referring to running fast. I don't want to be testing ranges of motion if my goal is for that athlete to run as fast as they can. I don't want to be getting to those extreme ranges of motion. I don't want to need them. I want that ankle to hold fairly stiff. Okay. That makes sense? I want their ankles to be fairly stiff.
Oh yeah, well, my wheels are turning now because I know there's going to be a few people that hear that statement, and we may start a little bit of a battle here.
Yeah, cool.
with some folks, but I know where you're headed for that. We're going to save that thought for another show because that's a good one. I like that. But I know where you're headed. All right. What? Oh yeah, man. Let's go. What? Okay. So, on that. All right. So we got to develop the elastic, property of it. You thought, yeah, it's strength. Yes, we got that stiffness. Okay. All right. How does dad, how does high school coach, how does, college kid who's listening to this right now, how can we start to kind of work on some of that, low level stuff? Like at a low level. Sorry, not that it's low level stuff. How can they begin to work on it? Is what I'm trying to say.
All right. So first things first. I would start with first of all, I sent you videos, and those videos, which by the way, I'm going to refer people to the videos that I sent you, John, to put up on the I believe it's the ELP.
Okay.
YouTube.
Yeah. I'll have them up on the ELP YouTube page here soon, right near the release of this podcast. But I haven't watched them yet either. So like you're teaching me as well. So I think there are 3 or 4 videos. Like what are the videos over, and like kind of what's the progression here?
It goes from a simple ankle bounce where the toes don't even leave the ground. You just kind of bounce, and as Dan Victor would say, you're kind of generating that piezoelectric effect, trying to build some bone density through the heels and various things like that. It's a very simple little drill. The second one is where you actually pick the foot up, and you don't actually. You always have one foot on the ground at all times, just basically doing like a 1 foot little ankle bounce. Then the next thing is a 2 foot ankle bounce, a double foot ankle pop, if you will, jumping rope, if you want to call it, without the rope. Then we go into what's called a power skip, where you begin to coordinate flexing the hip with the spring of the ankle. So once again, these are all laid out in a sequence. When you see the sequence in the videos I laid out, which of course, if they are of poor quality, please let me know and I'll get a better quality video up. But it just goes from a simple approach of just one ankle at a time, just feet not even leaving the ground, all the way up to a very coordinated skipping pattern, which a lot of kids cannot even do. I think we even had some of your kids try it when we were there last year, John, and it's pretty cool to see. Some kids just seem to pick it up, and it's like whoa, cool, I got it, kind of thing. So
yeah.
Anyway, so that's I'll go through a little progression there.
Okay. Sets, reps, like what do they look at? How do you implement something like this? So like we have a college kid listening to this right now and they've already got a strength and conditioning program at school, but they feel like there's something, they can add this to their program. How do they add this in without, messing up what they're doing at school?
Oh, I mean, on the drills that you'll see, they could do 200 to 500 of them. I mean, I'm not.
Oh, really?
Think how many foot contacts you have when you're jumping rope. I mean, it's a bunch. I mean, it's a whole bunch.
No, that's a good point.
200 to 500.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to say 200 to 500 reps. A lot. Yeah, we would probably do as a warm up. We would do 100 reps. I mean, so that's of the more coordinated version, and so it.
Oh my gosh, you're not worried about volume management, Chris? Oh no, that's not too much volume for your calves.
Well, if I'm jumping off of a 30-inch box, maybe, but no, it's no.
Yeah.
Hopefully, most of the people listening to this can handle 200 reps of rope jumping or something that's that level of plyometric. I think they would be fine.
For sure. Okay.
Is this something you would do every day? Do you layer it in just on the days that you're specifically training speed agility? How often a week would you want to do this to see results?
As often as you want. I mean, I would do it,
okay.
3 to 7 days a week. I mean, it's not.
All right.
I mean, think about it. It's like I think we get so messed up when it comes to as John was saying, volume management. Do you have to recover from walking? I don't think so. I mean, we're talking about drills.
Some people do these days, but I know where you're headed. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I think when someone, we think of, you got to recover, you might have to recover from some really intense work. This This is a
Yeah, I don't know where this whole volume management and stuff, like where this obsession with that began. But I hear you. Like I hear the same thing all the time. Oh, it's too many sets, or or dad calls me like, oh, we're going to tone it down a little bit, right? It's like, no, like your body can handle this. Like, geez, we're not made of glass, although some pitchers are.
No,
you know who you are.
But no, I mean every single the baseball pitchers specifically. Yes, they're all made of glass. So yes.
Yeah, no, you don't have to warm up before you go walk.
No.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers your question. No, it does not have to be. I would not worry about your volume on these, for concern over, is it going to affect my workout? Is it going to affect, I got to go ride my bike over to my buddy's house, later on. It's not going to affect those things. It's just not. So, like I said, you're going to do it off of a 2-foot bleacher, maybe. But, we're talking about low intensity stuff.
All right, John. Tell us how bringing the strength component to all of this.
All right. So the strength component, absolute strength, that's kind of my realm a little bit more. I think when you're talking, if you're a parent or you're a coach listening to this, I think it's important that, when you walk away from this conversation, you understand that like, this conversation is just not the end all be all for all of it. There are obviously a lot of other factors that play a role into how fast, you're able to run, right? What your speed is. But these are two definite like indicators of areas where you can really start to dig in, start to kind of break things down. And so, the area of absolute strength is, I think oftentimes a misunderstood and a, overlooked component to speed. Louis Simmons will talk about all the time that, absolute strength is the king of all of it. Without absolute strength, you don't have any of the other special strengths. I mean, you do, but maybe they operate at a very low level. But, there's a couple different ways to develop maximum strength. Okay. Now, I think most of the time when people think about max strength, they're going to think about, bench, squat, or deadlift. Those are usually the classic lifts. I think, a lot of people put clean and jerk or power clean into that conversation, but we don't teach the Olympic. I don't teach Olympic lifts. It's a waste of time. In my opinion, it doesn't translate. The literature shows it. Louis Simmons proved it over and over and over again. The bar speed's not fast enough to translate into actual speed. It doesn't develop explosiveness. And don't even get me started on the triple extension conversation. Chris, if you want to go there, but I'm not even going to go there because it's a bunch of BS. But anyways, the point of the conversation is to build absolute strength. All right. That has to really and truly occur within like a 1 to 3 rep, range. All right. But what exercise and how you do this is really important. So let's don't worry about the bench press. Let's talk about, squatting or deadlifting, for example. All right. Like, I am not a big squat guy. That is not one of the moves that I teach. I will teach our guys and girls. So, and girls, if you're listening to this, I say, guys, you're included in that. Okay. So don't get all mad at me. I'm including you. All right. But like I do teach the box squat, and I teach the box squat because I think coaches still think the squat is important. But basically I go to the box squat because it's going to engage the hips a whole lot more. All right. And then you're also going to help them build up that back squat a little bit too. So we're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But the back squat, basically once the shins and upper back break parallel, it kind of becomes more of a lower back exercise. And like, I don't think the lower back is all that important in sprinting. I mean, I know it plays a role in extension a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be our primary focus. So my preference when it comes to develop absolute strength is really the sumo deadlift. I like sumo deadlifting, and then I like to develop absolute strength from an isometric standpoint as well, from a time-based standpoint. So you have a couple of different ways to like develop strength, and I think where the kids work, and if an athlete, if you're a high school kid or you're a dad or you're a coach and you're listening to this right now, I think on my end of the strength side of what I'm talking about, the takeaway from this is you have to get away from the bodybuilding style of training. The repetition method is what bodybuilding is, okay? And the repetition method is not going to help you get faster. It doesn't work that way. Like, you want to, yeah, kids want to come in and gain weight, and okay, that's fine. But increasing hypertrophy or increasing the size of a muscle is not what you need to run faster. You know, we can argue about, you know, whether size equals strength or not, but increasing like the you know, the size of the muscles, like increasing the size of an engine, but just because the engine's bigger doesn't mean the horsepower is actually going to be there. Like, you're literally just adding unnecessary weight to the body. So, like, avoiding this type of like sarcoplasmic hypertrophy type training where you're building up this non-contractile element in the tissue and just swelling it up, that is not going to help you. So how do we get stronger if we're not going to be bodybuilding and all that? So at a younger age, like, yeah, I think you need to do some reps and develop some of that, you know, relative strength. So your basic push-ups and squats and all that. I mean, you'll see kids get faster, but once you start to get more advanced, you know, moving into more of like the max effort method, say with a sumo deadlift, okay, where there actually is going to be some musculature carryover, all right, to sprinting, but you're teaching these type 2B fibers just how to boom, like turn on, right? Turn on, boom, and turn on quick. And absolute strength is typically going to occur between 0 and 10 seconds anyways. So I kind of lost my train of thought on where I was headed with that. But staying within that roughly 1 to 3 rep max range to develop the absolute strength qualities lays the foundation to be able to develop the other qualities of speed, strength, speed, you know, and ultimately speed. So anything less than, you know, 20% basically, I think is what it's on the force velocity curve. You know, I think that's really a good way to start. But the other side of it is isometrics. So, you know, if you don't have the access to, you know, be able to pull, or you have a kid who maybe he can't pull because, you know, whatever, doctor said he can't do that, or his back bugging him, or just simply doesn't have the mobility or technique. I mean, my God, you see, I mean, kids are de-evolving rapidly. I mean, you know, I mean, I have college and pro guys that come in here and have no idea how to even set up a barbell. Which, you know, they made it to college pro, so I don't know. But, you know, meet them where they are. And so isometrics are another good way to do it. You know, whether it's like you're training an iso lunge in a max, you know, strength type of setting. So we're recruiting the right muscle fibers in the set amount of time. And then the fatigue is going to recruit even more motor units. And we're not laying the foundation for that, you know, that sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. So we're not just building unnecessary size. Does that make any sense at all, or did I just totally lose everybody on that?
No, that's good. Okay, so
No, that makes sense.
let me ask you a question to kind of follow up on that real quick. So what about high velocity? For example, you know, I know you guys have an impulse. You ball drops, you know, rebound type exercises for high reps. What about something like that as opposed to the pure repetition method like you're referring to?
Like, in regards to what? To help develop?
Yeah, speed development.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's honestly what we do on our speed days, you know? So, you know, on our speed days, yeah, I mean, I still may program something like the dynamic effort method, you know, in there, because I do still believe in that. I think there's a lot to support that. But yeah, I mean, learning how to turn the muscle on and off, you know, sub-maximal weight, maximum velocity. Yeah. But like I said, you're going for quality of movement and speed, you're not going for the pump.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the point I'm trying to push there, is like, we're not going for the pump. The pump is not really what you need. You're developing the wrong type of strength.
Right.
All right. So Chris gave us some good, you know, he has that progression of being super low, you know, level 1, work into your, you know, into the ankle pops and into the skips. What would you, for a practical application, what are these kids looking for in strength programs to know that they're getting, you know, to start off building the type of strength you're referring to in order to increase their speed?
Mm-hmm. So if you want to do it from the lifting side of stuff, I would say stick with the deadlift. If you're going to pick a lift and you want to get strong, stick with the deadlift. Don't worry about the squat. Don't even worry about the back squat. Just, work on the deadlift. And like I said, you're not trained to be a power lifter. So keep that in mind. Technique is important because it is a skill. Lifting is still a skill. All right. So it is a skill and treat it as such. So make sure you have the prerequisites to be able to do that. All right. And, if you're a dad or a coach and you don't quite know what those are, then we can definitely send us a question on that. We'll dig into that. Okay. But I'm answering this like you have an understanding of how to sumo pull, for example. All right. And I don't even know what your original question was, with the practical application of it.
Well, yeah. Well, Chris gave us just some basic progressions on how to work on that ankle stiffness and utilizing that elastic strength. As far as the strength component, things to include in a lifting program.
Okay. So a way to develop absolute strength. Okay. So if you're not skilled and you're not ready for a 1 to 3 rep max, right? You're not ready for something like that. That takes a lot of strength and technique and someone who's knowledgeable about what they're doing. So other ways you could do it. Man, I think just a general 4x5 is an easy way to do that. I mean, that's simple. It's basics. It's been around forever, right? Don't worry about volume management, all that. You're going to be fine. Because you're pushing a little bit past that absolute threshold, but you're going to get enough. Okay. Don't worry about auto regulation and all that fancy stuff right now. Just get started. You could start, on a hex bar, trap bar, and then move your way into sumo if you're not ready for sumo. That's an easy progression there. As far as from the isometric standpoint. So like we will do max effort lunge holds, iso lunge holds all the time. And, we're setting up the episode here, cause we've been known for doing ISOs for a long time. And a lot of people have asked us about it and they want to know the secrets behind it and how it all works. And we will get into all that. I promise. Okay.
So
that's coming.
One of the questions that we have gotten.
I'm sure it is. And honestly, I'm going to tell everybody, like, do your research. The research is out there. Like, do the research. Don't just wait on us to tell you, but we will. Like, Chris and I have been doing that a long time, but like, understand the time in which absolute strength and speed occurs. Okay. Understand the time and program accordingly. So 0 to 10 seconds might be a really good place to start, right? Can you do an ISO lunge? Can you do it properly? Can you hold max weight for up to what, Chris? I mean, 10 seconds, maybe, I don't know. What do you say?
Yeah. 0 to is 9 to 10 seconds would certainly be the upper limit of that. So
right.
For max.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, because if you're running a 9-second 40-yard dash, you're probably sitting over here in the chair next to me. You're probably not on the field, right?
Correct.
So dads, start with the lunge, and if a kid isn't ready to do that, then you know what? Let's just get baseline position. Have the kid hold just like 3 sets of 30 seconds, just to learn how to recruit those motor units, because that's a whole other ball game of what all that means. But like, yes, a younger kid has to learn how to be able to recruit some motor units and before they can get into that max strength. So you have to be smart about it. Like I remember I had a dad tell me one time, a kid, his daughter or son, I can't remember, was coming off an ACL injury and was like having him squat like 250 pounds at like sophomore year of high school, like fresh off an ACL injury. And it's like, why would you do that? Like, oh, well, we got to get strong. It's like, no, don't use common sense, people. Like, it's not complicated. So, that's kind of where I'm headed with it. And you're going to get me all fired up on it now. But I guess it's kind of the point. Y'all like to push my buttons anyway. So,
we're just opening the door for even more questions.
But look, 4x5, if you want something basic, max effort method, if you want something more complicated, if you want to get into the isometric side, which is a great thing, start with up to 10 seconds. If you're not ready for that, 3x30 is probably a good place to start to develop some of that absolute strength. You'll notice that as you get a little stronger in those and you start to be able to recruit more motor units, that's going to help translate over. And it's about the recruitment of motor units, not the weight. That's a whole other episode as well. Recruitment of motor units, not the weight. Remember that. So don't be so concerned about going after your max all the time.
Right.
All right. That's all great information, I think. So we're probably going to look to wrap this up. But I actually have kind of a surprise question for John. We're going into the weekend now. So as we're recording this podcast, so it'll be post-weekend by the time y'all are listening to this. So
okay.
John, you think those Giants are going to pull out another win like they did in Tennessee? they're playing the Panthers this weekend. I want your prediction on are the Giants going to pull out? Are they going to start 2-0?
Oh man.
This season?
Ooh. I don't know. I was pretty fired up to see the change and the change in culture at the Titans game. It was pretty awesome. So you know what? I do. I think they're going to pull it out. I like Baker Mayfield. I love the attitude, but you know, I don't. I think we're going to upset Baker. I think it's going to happen. So yeah, I'm putting my money on the Giants.
I don't know. You got Ben McAdoo's the OC down there. It's is he going to interrupt?
Oh geez, that's an old Giants coach there.
Yeah.
Chris, do you have a team, man?
Yeah. Are you an NFL guy, Chris? Or are you a college guy?
Yeah, college all the way. I don't really care about the NFL that much. No, that said, but I also don't have I'm not a hater either. So, how about that? I'll pull for the Giants.
What's your college team?
John.
Yeah,
I'll pull for the Giants.
All right.
All right. We'll see if you're right. Come by the time this podcast airs. So.
What?
All right.
Is that about it, Mandy?
Guys? Yeah, I think that's all we got.
Okay. All right. Cool. Good. Well, I hope this this gave you guys some good information, and take it and use it. Like we talked about in the other episode, like winning. It's up to you to take this information and use it. Don't just expect that it's I'm just listening to this and all of a sudden you're gonna get better. Like you actually got to apply the information. So send Chris and I questions. Like let us know how we can help you. That's what this whole show is for. Remember, we talk about every show. Like we're not doing ads or anything like that. Although if you do want one of the new ELP sleeveless hoodies, they are pretty sweet. So I think you should probably get one.
That's
Chris, I'll make sure you get one too. Yeah, they're not an ad.
That's not an ad.
Chris rocks the hoodies. We just ask that you share the show and help get the information out there. I think Chris and I are both firm believers that, this area, the Mid-South, and I include Birmingham in the Mid-South, like you're close enough. And there's just so much talent in our area here. And I think this area has been left behind for far too long. And so this information, let's get it out there. Support us, share the show. Man, we appreciate it. Again, your points of contact, you can email us info@elitelevelperformance.com. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Chris, what's your Instagram again?
It is Fast and Agile.
All right. Isn't there an underscore in there?
Yes. Fast underscore and underscore agile underscore 49.
Okay. All right. Cool. You can follow Chris there.
Yes.
Yeah. Do what? Say that again.
Fast and Agile 49. It'll probably pop me up there.
Cool. And I will get those videos of Chris's ankle stuff up on our YouTube page. That'll be Elite Level Performance as well. And I'll have those up here shortly after this episode comes out. And let us know if you got any other questions or feedback or anything, man. And we're going to keep this thing rolling. So love you guys. Appreciate you guys. And have a great rest of the day.
See you guys.
See ya.
See you, Chris.
See ya.